I stopped paying my mortgage in 2008. I'm still living in the house 12 years later. So I have a very strange situation, and I honestly don't even know who I'm supposed to talk to about it. So I figured I'd ask here first. Let me start back at the beginning, because it goes back a long way. Like a whole lot of Americans, I lost my job back in 2008, when everything fell apart. And once the paycheck stopped, I very quickly couldn't afford my mortgage anymore. Now, I had a friend who was in the exact same boat at the time, laid off, underwater, no way to keep up. And he told me his plan was simple. He was just going to stop trying, stop paying, stay put, and move out whenever they finally came to evict him. There was no shame in it back then, honestly. Half the country was going through some version of it. It felt less like a scheme and more like just accepting reality. The money was gone, the house was going to go, so why break yourself trying to delay the inevitable? And honestly, at the time, I didn't feel like I had much of a choice either, so I did the same thing he did. I just stopped paying. And here's a detail I think about a lot now. My friend, the one who gave me the idea in the first place, his eviction did eventually come through. A while later, they made him leave, and he moved out, exactly like he'd planned for. Same crisis, same choice, same plan. 2 houses, probably not far apart. His went the way everyone expected. Mine just didn't. I've never fully understood why. Same storm, and somehow his boat sank and mine drifted quietly into a harbor nobody was watching. I was out of work for 15 months, and during that entire stretch, I never made a single mortgage payment. Not one. And of course, the letters started coming. First the notices of late payment, then the notices of pending eviction. The scary ones, the ones that make your stomach drop when you see the envelope. I braced myself for the knock on the door. I figured any day now, someone would show up and it'd be over. And then, nothing happened. And I want to try to describe what that was actually like, because it's a strange kind of dread that most people never experience. For weeks, I lived on a knife's edge. Every time a car slowed down in front of the house, my heart jumped. Every knock at the door, every official-looking envelope, I thought, this is it. I had honestly started mentally packing. I'd look around at the furniture and think about what I could fit in a car, where I might go, whether I'd have to ask family to take me in. When you're waiting to lose your home, you don't really live in it anymore. You just kind of hover inside it, waiting for the end. But the end never came. The eviction never happened. Nobody showed up. The scary letters slowed down, and then they stopped altogether. And I kept waiting, braced for it, for weeks that turned into months. And then one day I realized I'd stopped flinching at the mail. And slowly, without my ever quite deciding it, the waiting just turned into living again. The months turned into a year, and then years, and the house that I'd been about to lose quietly became, once more, just home. And here's the part that still amazes me when I say it out loud. That was 12 years ago. 12 years. And I am still living in this exact same house. And in all that time, from that day to this one, I have not made a single mortgage payment. Not one, in over a decade. Now, I wasn't completely in the clear, because along the way, I also fell behind on my property taxes, which is a separate thing from the mortgage. But that one I actually took care of. Eventually, I got back on my feet, and I was able to pay off all the delinquent property taxes I owed. And ever since then, I've paid my property taxes on time, every single year, without fail. So as far as the county is concerned, I've been a responsible tax-paying homeowner this whole time. And to be honest with you, at this point, I'm not even sure who owns my house anymore. I really don't. In 12 years, nobody has mailed me a single thing about the mortgage. No company, no bank, nobody has contacted me about it at all. It's like the debt just evaporated into thin air. I even went and looked it up on the county records, just to see, and according to them, I am still listed as the owner of the house. So now, here's my actual question, and here's why I'm finally trying to deal with this after all these years. The truth is, this house is just too big for me now. When I stopped paying that mortgage, this was a full house. Kids in their rooms, noise, life, the whole thing. That's part of why I fought so hard in my quiet way to hold on to it. It wasn't just a building, it was where my family was. But time does what time does. My kids grew up and moved out, one by one, off living their own lives now, as they should be. And then, in 2016, my wife passed away. So it's just me now, one man, rattling around in a house that was built for a whole family, with all these rooms that don't get used anymore. I make coffee for one. I eat dinner in a kitchen that used to be the loudest room in the house. I don't need all this space, and honestly, some days all the emptiness of it sits on my chest a little. I'd like to downsize. Find something smaller, something simpler, something that fits the life I actually have now instead of being a constant echo of the life I used to have. But how on earth do I even do that? The county thinks I own this house. How do I go to them and explain that, well, actually, I don't really own it, and I've just been living here rent-free and mortgage-free for 12 years? And here's the part that's really ironic and keeps nagging at me. I'm actually worried that if I just up and leave, nobody will pay the property taxes on the place, and then that'll become a whole new problem that somehow lands back on me, so I feel a little stuck. So, what do I do here? Thanks for reading. Update 1. Okay, so I want to thank everyone for all the advice on my last post. A lot of you told me the same thing: stop guessing and go talk to a real attorney. So I did. And I've got a first update, and it's already more interesting than I expected. I found a lawyer and sat down with her, and she started digging into my situation. And the very first thing she told me actually surprised me. She said that, legally, I am still the owner of this house. Full stop. Because the eviction process, all those years ago, was never actually completed. They started it, they sent the notices, and then, for whatever reason, they just never finished it. And an eviction that never gets completed doesn't take your house away from you. So, on paper, I never stopped being the owner. But then she got to the interesting part. She told me that there is still a lien on the house. A lien is basically a legal claim against the property. It's what the mortgage company holds, so that if you don't pay, they have the right to take the house. So the lien from my old mortgage is still sitting there on the title, which, okay, that makes sense. Somebody still owed that money, at least on paper. Except here's where it gets strange. She started tracing who actually holds that lien now. And it turns out my mortgage went on quite a journey after I stopped paying. My original mortgage was ultimately sold off to a second mortgage company, and that second company doesn't exist anymore. It got absorbed, swallowed up, by a third company, and that third company then went bankrupt and completely collapsed. So follow that chain with me. The company that technically holds the claim on my house has been gone for years, bankrupt, dissolved. There is, in a very real sense, nobody left holding the other end of the rope. And my lawyer said that this, combined with a couple of other things, might actually work enormously in my favor. Because for 12 years now, I have been the one maintaining this property. I've kept it up, I've lived in it, I've paid the property taxes on it faithfully, and in all that time, not a single lien holder has ever stepped forward to assert their rights. Nobody has come to collect. Nobody has come to foreclose. Nobody has come at all. So she told me that, given all of that, she believes she can actually get the lien holder removed from the title entirely. Which means, and I could hardly believe it when she said it, I may end up owning this home free and clear after all. Completely mine. No mortgage, no lien, no debt. After 12 years of assuming I was a squatter in my own house, waiting for the other shoe to drop, it's possible the shoe was never going to drop, and the house was quietly becoming mine the whole time. And I have to tell you, walking out of that lawyer's office, I felt this strange mix of emotions I wasn't prepared for. Relief, obviously. Enormous relief. For 12 years, in the back of my mind, there had always been this low hum of anxiety, this sense that I was getting away with something, and that one day the bill would come due, all at once, and ruin me. And here was a professional telling me that not only was that not going to happen, but that the house might actually, legitimately, become fully mine. That hum I'd lived with for over a decade just went quiet. But underneath the relief was something stranger, almost like vertigo. Because it meant that this whole time, all those years I spent quietly bracing for disaster, feeling like a squatter in my own life, not daring to plan for a future, I'd actually been safe. The ground had been solid under me the entire time, and I just couldn't see it. There's something almost dizzying about finding out that the thing you feared for 12 years was never really coming. She couldn't tell me how long all of this would take to sort out, though. "These things move slowly," she said. "So I don't expect to have another update for a while. But I had to share this because I still can hardly believe it. Thank you all again." Update 2. Hi everyone, it's been several months, and I finally have some movement to report, so I wanted to check back in. So after that first meeting, my lawyer got to work on the actual legal process for clearing the title. The tool she used is something called a quiet title action. I'd never heard of it before, but from what she explained, it's basically a lawsuit you file to settle, once and for all, who really owns a piece of property. You bring it before a judge. You notify anyone who might have a claim, and the court quiets all the competing claims, meaning it decides, with finality, that the title belongs to you and nobody else can come along later and dispute it. And the reason this fit my situation so perfectly is exactly what we'd talked about. The whole problem was that there was this ghost of a lien sitting on my title, held by a company that no longer exists. A quiet title action is the way you deal with exactly that, a claim that's technically still on the books, but has no living owner to defend it. Now, it wasn't instant, and it wasn't quite as simple as just asking. My lawyer had to do her due diligence, and that took time. She had to formally track down and document that every single company in that chain, the second mortgage company, and the third one that absorbed it and went bankrupt, was genuinely gone, dissolved, with no successor stepping in to claim the debt. She had to search the records, follow the bankruptcy filings, and essentially prove to the court that there was truly nobody left out there with a legitimate right to that lien. And then the law requires that you make a good faith effort to notify any possible claimant. You can't just quietly erase a debt in the dark. So there were public notices and waiting periods and a window of time during which, in theory, someone could have come forward to say, "Wait, that claim is mine." And I'll be honest, that waiting period made me nervous all over again. After 12 years of silence, part of me kept expecting some corporation to materialize out of nowhere at the last second and say, "Actually, we bought that debt. You owe us everything plus interest." My lawyer told me it was extremely unlikely, given how thoroughly those companies had collapsed. But you don't sit quietly in a house for 12 years, braced for a knock that never comes, without a little bit of that dread getting into your bones. So the notices went out, and the waiting period began to run. And once again, I found myself doing the thing I've apparently been doing for over a decade now, waiting to see if anyone would finally come for the house. There's a grim little joke in that. My whole adult relationship with this house, for 12 years, has basically been one long exercise in waiting for a knock that never comes. First, I waited for the eviction. Then I waited, more vaguely, for some reckoning I always assumed was out there somewhere. And now here I was again, checking the mail a little too carefully, watching the calendar, waiting for some long-dead company to rise up out of the paperwork and stake its claim. My lawyer kept gently reminding me that the odds of that were almost nothing. These companies weren't just quiet, They were legally dead and buried. But knowing something with your head and believing it in your gut are two different things, especially after you've spent 12 years braced for the worst. Old habits of dread don't let go easily. I don't have the final answer yet, but my lawyer is optimistic. She says everything is proceeding exactly the way it should. So I'll come back one more time when it's all official, one way or the other. Thanks for sticking with me on this strange little journey. Update 3. Well, it's done. I got the final word from my lawyer this week, and I wanted to come back and close this out for all of you who followed along on what has honestly been one of the strangest chapters of my life. The quiet title action went through. The waiting period came and went, and just as my lawyer predicted, not a single soul came forward to claim that lien. Nobody, because there was nobody left to do it. So the court did exactly what she'd hoped. It removed the old lien from my title completely, wiped it clean. So, as of now, it's official, in writing, stamped and recorded with the county. I own my house, free and clear, no mortgage, no lien, no debt of any kind hanging over it. After 12 years of quietly assuming I was one letter away from losing everything, the house is, fully and legally, mine, every board and brick of it. I sat with that paperwork for a long time when it came, because it's a genuinely absurd outcome if you think about it. I stopped paying my mortgage in the middle of a financial crisis, fully expecting to be thrown out on the street. My friend who did the same thing eventually did move out, and somehow, through nothing but a chain of companies collapsing one after another, and me just staying and paying my taxes and keeping the lights on, I ended up owning outright the house I thought I'd lost. It doesn't feel earned exactly. It feels like the system had a hole in it, and I happened to be standing in it for 12 years. But here's the thing I keep coming back to, and it's the part that's a little bittersweet. Now that the house is finally, truly mine, I'm going to sell it. Because everything I said in my first post is still true. It's still too big. It's still too quiet. The kids are still grown and gone, off building their own lives. And my wife is still gone too, since 2016, and no amount of clear title changes that. I walk through these rooms, and every one of them has a memory in it. The kitchen where she used to hum. The door frame in the hallway where we marked the kids' heights in pencil, year after year. The backyard where we did everything. For a long time, those memories were the reason I couldn't imagine leaving. But lately, they've started to feel less like company and more like weight. This is a house built for a family that doesn't live here anymore, and I've been the last one rattling around inside it, keeping the whole thing running for ghosts. So the strange gift in all of this isn't really the money, though I won't pretend the money doesn't help. The real gift is that now, for the first time, I actually get to choose. For 12 years, I was stuck. I couldn't sell a house I wasn't sure I owned, couldn't leave without creating a mess, couldn't really move forward in any direction. I was just frozen in place, living in the past because I didn't have a clear way into the future. And now that's gone. Now the house is mine to sell, cleanly and simply. And I'm going to sell it. And I'm going to find somewhere smaller. Somewhere that's just the right size for the man I am now, instead of an echo of the family I used to have. And I've made my peace with letting the house go, even the memories in it. Because I've realized the memories aren't in the walls. They're not in the pencil marks on the doorframe or the kitchen tiles. Those things are just where the memories happened. The memories themselves I get to keep, and they'll come with me wherever I land next. I don't need to keep heating and cooling and maintaining 4 empty bedrooms to hold onto 30 years of a good life. I carry that with me already. The house was just the container, and a container that's grown too big and too heavy for one person to carry is allowed to be set down. I think my wife would be glad about that, honestly. She was always the practical one, the one who could see when I was holding on to something long past when I should have let it go. She never liked to see me stuck. And for a lot of years after she passed, Stuck is exactly what I was. In this house, in this strange limbo, in a life that had gotten too quiet. So the fact that this whole bizarre mortgage saga is what finally shook me loose and gave me a way forward, I think she'd find that funny, actually. I think she'd laugh at me, in a good way. So that's the end of it. I own my home free and clear, 12 years after I was sure I'd lost it, and I'm going to let it go, on my own terms, so I can finally move on. Life is strange like that. Thank you, all of you, for following this. And thank you for the advice, and for not judging a guy who spent 12 years not entirely sure whether he was a homeowner or a very comfortable squatter. It turns out I was a homeowner the whole time. I just didn't know it yet.